regards to our partners from the university side. Actually, we are planning to have two different tracks for the upcoming year. One, and that is also our topic today, is the new masterclass series with a focus on teaching entrepreneurship. I will not go into the details because we have the colleagues later on, especially Bart, who will introduce this new intervention to you. But for you to know, this is not just another session of the masterclass, it's actually the next step. And after this next masterclass, or this upcoming masterclass, we will also enter into the support for entrepreneurship teaching at Albanian universities. So this is, let's say, the first cluster or first track of interventions. The second cluster is related to incubation services or an incubation program at Albanian universities. And here we are planning to set up a multi-university incubation program with a very nice name of Tirana Inc. And you can also see the slogan here, 1 program, 10 teams, 100 days. We are currently approaching the universities in not only in Tirana, but also in the area to support us and to become founding or supporting partners for this initiative. And the idea is that universities join their forces to set up this incubation program and give startup and incubation support to students, to mixed students from the different universities. The time frame for this is basically that we will kick off this program most probably in late January or early February. This is the second track. The third track is a completely new intervention with the name Connect IT. This is a digital workspace that we are planning to set up with a focus on IT students, because we would like to connect these IT students to micro and small enterprises in Albania, which have a digital challenge. So also related to the COVID pandemic situation, a lot of SMEs or micro enterprises have a need to digitalize their services or to improve their digital services. So we would like to work on these solutions together with IT students from different universities. We will kick off this new intervention also within the next couple of weeks. And we are also inviting more universities and more stakeholders, both from the academia, but also from the private sector side to join us for this new project. So that's basically in a nutshell what we are planning from our side. From our project side, it's definitely not only myself, but also Valbona Kochi. Most of you know her already. She's also back. And she will be our main contact person for all the interventions related to the universities. Yeah, and that's basically all from my side. I would like to hand over to you, Aya.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. And that allows me to introduce, here are the contact details, allows me to introduce Neda Groshi, who is a local Albanian, and she will be helping us, assisting us with the project in Albania this year. Here are the contact details. We'll send it out to you as well, but just to know that we have some support, some local support on the ground. Now then, I'd like to come to the inspirational talk for today about entrepreneurship education. And we have 3 fantastic speakers today. And I'll briefly introduce you to them, and then I hand over to Rutger for the first talk. Rutger Siebinga, he's the coordinator of the minor entrepreneurship at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences. And he will be talking about the entrepreneurship education in Amsterdam, the use case for that. Then we have Peter Bosgaard, the founder of Mr. President, a very successful company. I believe he's sold already, or he will talk about that a bit later. He is an alumnus of the entrepreneurship education program as well. And Bart is a solid member of our team, our core team, and he will lead and talk about the upcoming Teach the Teacher Masterclass. So those are the 3 speakers of today. We'll have a short break after Peter's presentation. And there's also an opportunity to ask your questions. So please, while you're listening to the speakers, please post your questions in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat, and I'll be summarizing those questions at the end of every talk. So after Rutger's talk, we have a little bit of a Q&A session with him, and he will be answering those questions back then. Like I said, please stay on mute so everyone will be able to listen to the talks properly. Also, I have I have recorded this session. I'm recording this session, so you're aware of that as well. And I think that's about it for me. I'd love to. I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll hand over to Rutger for the first conversation. Rico, can you put me on mute?
All right. Hello. I think somebody has his mic on. Not sure who it is. Yeah. All right. Everybody's muted. Thanks for the introduction, Arjen. You know, Rutger, coordinator of the Mind Entrepreneurship, equivalent in English is Roger. Might be a bit easier. Before we start off, would like to kicking a small video. All right. So, you know, just what is some examples of last semester of the ventures the students started. Just to give you some background, to give you an idea as to how the program looked like, it's good to start off with showing some content to how many students aboard. So it's about 150 students we get from the University of Amsterdam of Applied Sciences. What's important to know is that we have a strong diversity with regards to educational backgrounds. So you have to imagine that we get students in from fashion, from nutrition, aviation, IT, economics, and they all come together in some sort of melting pot. And that creates beautiful moments and interactions. And that's basically where the foundation lies, where they start their own venture or startup. So we got, besides that, we have 20 places from students from other Dutch universities. So we start on average 50 startups, ventures a semester. So that makes it about 100 ventures, startups a year. We got 16 coaches, not full-time equivalent, but they work like a day or 2 days in a week. They work for our program, and most of them are entrepreneurs themselves. So you got also from like a coaching perspective, you got people who are specialized in sales, others are specialized in intellectual property, others are specialized in finance. So that's basically gives you some idea as to what the background is of the different coaches as well. We established in 2005. So that's like 15 years ago. So we basically built this program by trial and error. And the main focus has been from the very start, learning by doing. So we never asked the students to come up with some sort of business plan. Basically from the we told them, you join our program and as of the beginning, it will be your company. So what we look for and what is that each student is curious, inquisitive, and they want to explore. And What's also an important message is that we basically tell them from the beginning, if you join this program, it's basically a full-time program. Students can choose for a minor, which could be for like 2 days a week. But our message basically is from the start, if you join in, if you want to set up your own business, company, or venture, startup, then we need your full commitment. We can't select, but basically by bringing the message across, we avoid a huge dropout. We ensure that they know what they start upon. So how do we capitalize on these drives? Learning by doing. What's so beautiful about the entrepreneurship is that it is the perfect match, in the sense that we put them behind the driving wheel and they basically determine their own route. Sometimes a coach will sit basically on the back bench, tell them, hey, you got to turn right or you got to turn left. But in the end, they make the final decision. It's also their company, it's their venture. And we provide them basically support by providing the best ecosystem through which you can drive your car in the best possible way. So students basically shape, in that sense, their own future. And what's nice to know as well is that I came across this saying that, oh, it's in my screen, got to change it, that the knowledge they obtain and they come across by learning by doing, you will basically see that it is most likely that if that knowledge is implemented, it's due to the fact that they implement it themselves. And of course, the other aspects, learning, reading, listening, that's also involved in every decision they make, because they will learn from workshops, they learn from YouTube, they listen to their coach, they listen to their peers, but eventually they make their own decision. And they will realize after a while, like, okay, was it a good or a bad decision? And they might adopt it and change their strategy. So entrepreneurship, therefore, in our eyes, like the best match with regards to learning by doing, because you give them the full responsibility and you give them the means of shaping their own future. Next slide. Yep. One of the most important phases of our program, I would say, is the startup factory. The startup factory takes, in our case, 3 weeks. During the startup factory, we demand from the students full attendance for the complete first 3 weeks. So that means they will be in at 9 and they will leave late. And what you see here on screen is on the left, you see the city of Amsterdam. Then you see an island up north in the Netherlands. But the first week is all about getting to know each other about idea generation. So it's like a big washing machine. They come in, 150 students come in, and it works with business speed dates, giving pitches, and we will have 300-400 ideas which the students bring in. So in that first week, they will slowly start to get to know each other. And after a couple of days, we move them all out from basically the university up to the island. And to give you a small impression of how the team building and how the interaction is, let's start the next one. So in that first week, basically when we are in that island, it's a matter of working hard, playing hard. But at the end of the week, we basically let every venture or the idea generation get passed by a jury. So they will come, present and pitch their ideas. And then the next week, it's all about the next week, the second week, it's all about getting out of the building by checking their assumptions and the problems they might have in their minds about what the consumer thinks or how they are going to solve a certain issue. So after the first week, second week, we basically let them do all customer interviews, get out of the building, doing research. And then in the third week, we have a first startup assessment with them. So we don't have any exams, but here in the third week, we basically lay the foundation with regards to what will be their milestones, what will be their targets. And to give you an idea what their targets could be, of course, you could think about turnover, but it's basically divided in getting your company ready, getting ready for the marketplace, and getting ready to do sales. So in that contract, which we put together with the students during the first assessment, it could be like a target, could be like running a Facebook campaign or doing Google advertising or getting your first minimal viable product out there by week 10. Finding basically the appropriate factories who can make your product or service. And as of basically as of that moment in time, where we laid basically the foundation of their venture, of their startup, and we let them loose. Let them loose in the sense that as of that moment in time, we are no longer like require their full attendance at the university. That's only for the first 3 weeks. But now they're off on their own. And what is so important about the first 3 weeks is that we create the cohesion with one and another. Because after that moment in time, you have 50 ventures all going about doing their own thing, but they share that same basis, so they will always know how to find and interact with each other. And everybody has the right flow and mindset to go after their targets. In this slide, what you see is like the program of the minor, which takes a half year, comes down to 20 weeks. The upper parts are basically the cherries, like the workshops we provide. The part below is more like the events, the assessments we do, and the sprints we take. So the startup factory, those 2 to 3 weeks, which are very intense, is like a sprint. It's like a little program within the 20 weeks program. Then coaching, they get to choose their coach of preference. So as I said in the beginning, we got like 16 different coaches, and they have one fixed coach, which they sit down with at least every week, which basically guides them through the process. So what's important to understand as well, that those 150 students got completely different backgrounds. So some of them strong marketing background, some a strong finance background. So those workshops are basically how they drive their car. They discuss with the coach, what do we need? What are our weaknesses? Which areas or expertise do we need to catch up with? Another like trend which is in motion is that we move away from like the classical uh, teaching methods. So, for instance, you will see that one of the sprints or events we do, we have like a sales week. We used to give like sales lectures, but now we have basically compromised it into a week where we have like a guest speaker in the morning and then workshops in the afternoon. And often those are like students from our own ecosystems or guest speakers from the working field. So rather than sending, it's like sending for at least like an hour in the morning, and then really workshops like, okay, LinkedIn, you got a LinkedIn expert, it gives them an hour update on the latest tools which you can use as a venture. And then in that afternoon, they can sit down, work on it themselves, and ask questions basically to the expert. Some of the events we do, I can't go through them all, but we have like a prototype party. We have a Boost Your Business events where we bring in people from the outside to give consultancy to our ventures. We got like a sales market, and we have like an Oscar gala for the most creative campaign. Talking about the assessments, in week 3 we got a startup assessment. Then at the like midway, we have a midway assessment where the assessor basically checks how it's going. Do we need to adjust the targets? Do we have to change the milestones? And basically send the message across how well they are doing against the original plan of all the milestones and targets they set out in week 3. Then at the very end, and I will come back to that later, we have the final assessment. Okay, so why, and I know sure Bart will later on come back to this flower, but we drew up this flower about a half year ago, because if you take that picture in mind, which I just showed you, it looks like it's a linear process, but it's not, because of the diversity of the group, also because of the nature of students more and more having their own company already. You've got to be ready that you have students coming in at all sorts of velocities, at all sorts of different speed levels and knowledge levels. So we have people coming in who already run a company for 3 years, to like a person who is completely has to start from scratch. And therefore, that person who already has a company for 3 years, and he needs a completely other coaching style, but also he runs into completely other questions. So therefore, it's dynamic, and it's basically tailor-made, and therefore they drive their car to the places where they find the information they need to take their next steps. So it's important to realize that this flower basically represents the interaction and the dynamic culture of the program, because it's not linear in the sense that everybody sits in the class. No, that's basically up to the students, and they have to tell at the end, how they drove their car, their company, the way they did it, why they failed, or why they made this a success. So also part of that first 2-3 weeks, and also later in the program, is like the personal development. We got a partner who basically provides insights to the students regarding their personality, their talents, the motivational test. So, for instance, if we go to that island, we let them do a test on beforehand. They bring their results to Texel. We let them dress up in the colors of their test. Some are completely red, some are like red and green. And in the interaction and in getting to know each other, And we want to make them aware of the fact that you can't, like, for instance, it's not that we fight against, but what you often see is, hey, I come with my mate from economics and I want to set up this company together with my friend. And not realizing that might not be the best idea. It could be. But those tests basically give them insight as to who they are, but also who maybe their friend is. And they start, at least we get this conversation going. Like, okay, is there a match based on your personality, on the motivation, and then your talents basically to come together? And that's also being questioned and asked by the coaches. Part of our ecosystem, and again, you've got to be aware that we run this program for 15 years, but we slowly have been adding on partners, meaning the business coming from, for instance, Visma. I don't know, you might know it. It's a bookkeeping company. They provide the software, but they give basically the ventures, the startups, this software themselves, free for a year. We also have a bank. We also have, from a legal perspective, we also have like an incubator. But this shows you just quickly, I can talk about this for half an hour about every partner, what he brings in, but the ecosystem, which is important. Also, what really helps, and mostly in obtaining partners, we found is like, this is the place where we are at the moment. This is the studio. It's like fully built of glass. It doesn't look like a classroom at all. It's more like one of those hipster incubator places. And if you bring in people from outside, that's also what they feel the vibes. They feel something is happening here. Students are really working hard and shaping their own future. And that this really helps, to let them forget their students. And it also helps bringing on partners. As I said, no exams, but real life assignments. Or the only thing we ask them, and this is basically a digital portfolio, they have to keep track upon, like, okay, how do we go? What is our sales strategy? How do we go about marketing? What do we do about sustainability? And we basically asked them to write those decisions and the strategy down in a digital portfolio, which is basically at the end of the ride, their proof of getting the targets and the milestones set out at the beginning. Time-wise, I might have to skip this, but this is just a quick example of like a real life assignment. We asked them, go out and shoot your own campaign, be it a social media campaign, be it Facebook, be it on Google, and they gotta do this, but it's for the good of their business, for the good of their company. And that's the same with networking. We asked them to go out and at least go to free network events and write down what the output was. Final assessment. So, as I said, at the final assessment, basically, what the assessor does is they give a presentation and they're going to reflect upon the learnings they had as a venture. Part of the assessment is also the personal development, but for 80%, it comes down to the venture. And they're going to share all the stories about whether or not they were successful or not.
But I'm breaking in quickly. There's quite a few questions coming in as well, so I don't want to lose those out of sight. I'm not sure if you're about to wrap up.
I saw the question about we moved the format online lately. Yeah, we did. Meaning that coaching we do still as much as possible physically, but that's like a 1-to-4 relationship. If we got 150 students together, yeah, we mostly work through Zoom. And we actually, that move, any lessons we learned from it, yeah, what's a pity is that the cohesion is a lot less. They don't know each other that well. Getting the interaction out of them is a bit more difficult, but what we learned, what didn't work was pre-record workshops, because we put them out on our YouTube channel and we saw, they didn't listen. Like we put it out to like 150 students, we had like 4 hours of listening. So don't do that. Much better is a Zoom class where they can ask questions in the chat and put them in breakout rooms. But then, I mean, that truly works. And moving more to consultancy. So more like on a question-based, saying, okay, next week there's consultancy on sales. Anybody joining? And they come in with their questions. Other questions?
I think one is from Enrico. Enrico, maybe you can tell us a little bit about. I don't really understand what you meant. You said you can't, you cannot apply for programs.
Excuse me, Ariane, can you repeat once again?
Yeah, I said you asked the question in the chat as well, but I'm very aware, Enrico, that we have very little time left for this particular section. So what I might do is park that one and see if we can come back to it at the end of the session.
Okay.
So not to lose any.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
That's a good question about like getting diverse students in. Basically, is that really works. We try to connect with every faculty within the university to get our, basically that they get to know each other, or that we get to know them. But once the students are in, from like where a couple of years ago, we never had fashion students. But once they get in and they feel like, okay, this program really adds to their to their life, then the mouth of word starts, and then more and more follow. And now we get like 12 to 50 students of the Fashion Institute every semester. Start out by reaching out, and then you give them the program, and they give back to you by means of good reviews.
Thanks very much. I think we'll leave it for that for this this particular section. Thanks very much for your presentation, Rutger. And some of the questions, if we do have time at the end of the session, we might get back to those. But for now, Rutger, if you can stop sharing your screen, because I'd like to ask our next speaker, which is Peter Boschgaard, to jump in and share your screen with us. If you're there.
Need to unmute, sorry.
Hi, Peter. Hello.
Hi.
Hi there. All right, guys. So Peter, just a quick introduction, Peter, just so we know who we have. Peter is the setup Mr. President, a very successful company, but also has been an alumnus of the entrepreneurship program. So I'm sure he's going to talk about that in his presentation that is coming up right now.
All right, I need to restart my Zoom meeting for a couple of seconds, but I'll be back in order to share my screen. I need to update my preferences. Sorry for that.
That's all right.
All right. Here I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All right. share. And double checking if you see my first slide.
Yeah, perfect, Peter.
Okay. So I'm here to tell you a bit about my story as a student entrepreneur, as the founder of Mr. President. So who am I? I'm Peter, the founder of Mr. President. Up until recently, I also was the growth director, because I've always been the entrepreneur within the company. And I'd like to walk you through a bit of the history of the company and how I experienced being a student entrepreneur, and also what I took away from it. So, Mr. President, a short introduction. We create extraordinary presentations for extraordinary organizations. So basically we help a lot of A brands, governments, such as United Nations, basically anywhere around the world. But that the design of the presentations, the software tools they use to either edit or present presentations, and we also train their full staff. So obviously it didn't start as a company that I just summarized, but to give you some facts and figures where we are today, 26 colleagues, a headquarters in Amsterdam, a small hub in New York, and an agent in Singapore. We serve clients in over 37 countries, and within the presentation niche that we basically under the Prezi presentation niche, we've won 6 out of 7 awards that had been organized. So I think it's something we can be very, very proud of. A brief history. Obviously, I'm here for a reason. The company started during the minor entrepreneurship, which I enrolled in 2011. I always had the ambition to become an entrepreneur, and this for me was the perfect opportunity to see where this minor will take me, and who I will bump into, and what ideas I will bump into. So luckily I bumped into my co-founder Paul, who already was active in the advertising industry, and noticed the presentations are kind of boring even in the creative industry. So he started doing that as an intern, later as a part-time employee. And he actually joined the minor entrepreneurship in order to start his own presentation agency. But he's a creative, so he wanted to meet a student that's more commercial, more economic minded. And that's how we met and started the company. So during this minor, also in 2011. In 2012, things already took off a bit, but Prezi, the software tool we mainly used back in the days, started recognizing us, started promoting us internationally, and also the press started to recognize us. So we were listed on the list of the 25 best young entrepreneurs in the Netherlands. We also were finalists in the Student Entrepreneur Awards in the Netherlands. So we started to gain some traction on the PR side as well. Our first own office in 2013. For the first 2 years, we were actually in the advertising agency that Paul joined as an intern. But we grew too big. We had too many employees, so we needed to move into our own office after 2 years. 1 year after that, we already started our hub. I actually wrote my thesis about our move to the US. So I actually got the opportunity to graduate within my own company. And also in the same year, we found our agent in Singapore in order to serve the Asian market. 2016, we moved to our current head office, which is in Old Church in the eastern part of Amsterdam. Our team started growing in, so our former office wasn't for a longer period of time, so to say. In 2018, we started listening to our clients even better and decided to become a full service presentation agency. So instead of being the well-known agency for creating Prezi presentations, we also started doing PowerPoints, keynotes, Google Slides, animated films, everything you consider to be a presentation, we can basically design it or show you how to do it yourself, train you to do it yourself. So that's where the company, in my opinion, kind of matured. Took us 6 years, but hey, learning by doing. And in 2020, I actually moved away out of the operations. So during the introduction, was stated that I sold the company. That's not a fact. I actually still own the company, but my co-founder Paul, he moved into a more management position, and I wanted to be the entrepreneur again, and decided to take my energy elsewhere. And I recently joined the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences to become a coach, something you just heard about a little bit. And I'm also exploring other ventures I might start or get involved with. So pretty exciting year, apart from the entire Corona situation for me, since I kind of left my child to stand on his own feet. For me, how that this party started. Obviously, as already stated, at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, and this is for the first half year. And there are some major takeaways I would like to share with you today. So I summarized them in the next couple of slides, and I will point them out one by one. Basically, 5 keys to success. The first one is the opportunity. There's a 1-year time difference between the picture on the left, which is the day I met my co-founder Paul, and the picture on the right, which is the day that a client decided to put me on a helicopter from Nice to Monaco because he needed to be me to be in Monaco, which obviously is quite a big world in between. If you actually move from being a student into someone who is in a helicopter in Monaco, which I now do every day, obviously not. But it isn't luck that created a situation on the right. It isn't the having a great idea which creates a situation like on the right. It's actually having the opportunity to do something with the idea and with the luck that you might have. So getting the opportunity to actually start a company, to get out there, to test your ideas, to make a move and make the move which you think is best. I think that's the biggest value of the program we have here in Amsterdam, getting the opportunity. So the situation on the right would have happened if it was for the opportunity. Obviously, we had luck, we had a good idea, we had a number of factors that came into play, but the opportunity was what made it happen. So for me, that's the biggest reason for setting up an entrepreneurship program within your university. The reason for you to consider opening up. Number 2 is getting inspired. There's 2 major factors here, which is the fellow students. You have students coming from multiple disciplines. So I am from an economical background, but my co-founder Paul, he studied advertising. And as Rutger just stated, there's a huge amount of different students walking around here, and you inspire each other. With different studies come different characters, so that's very inspirational. On the right, you see one of the other coaches and entrepreneurs that have been around for multiple years, and that's also very inspirational, because if you start as a student entrepreneur, you might not see what life is ahead of you. So people coming in actually tell you there's a... I think someone has his or her mic on. I'll continue. So seeing other entrepreneurs on stage, being coached by other entrepreneurs is very inspirational, and it really boosts your own energy to make the best out of your company. Number 3, especially for me, a very, very important factor of I think the success we had during the minor entrepreneurship is being coached and not taught. And this is something I still remember today when doing business. So we can dive into books, we can follow online educational programs and spend a lot of time within our offices and do meetings and stuff. But as long as we're not out there, we do the walk, stuff is not going to happen. So the pictures you actually see is all from the first days of Mr. President. My co-founder Paul, exhausted of a couple of nights work because our coach told us, okay, you have the first client, make sure you guys meet the deadline and work around the clock if you have to, and we actually did. The picture on the right is actually a sales course that we followed during Mind Entrepreneurship. And it taught us to actually go out there and test our sales skills and see how clients respond as soon as you offer them something. And are you able to sell something? And that's something that's very inspirational. And you learn a lot from it as a person as well. So being coached, not taught, is something that you gain freedom as an entrepreneur, and you actually learn by doing. It's important. You do get coached, and you do have a lot of freedom, but it doesn't mean you get the right tools hosted by the educational program. By the way.
Peter, I don't hear anymore, but maybe switch off your camera and then come back in if you can. Okay, I assume we have lost Peter at this point in time, but I'm sure he's going to come back in and continue his story. Before he does, I am...
Arjen, what we could do, he's in the studio, that I move my laptop to his place. It's just next door, and we continue. 1 second.
So while that is happening, guys, will be great for you to put some questions also in the chat for Peter.
Helemaal opnieuw in. Lang weghaal?
Nee. Je kan hem nu...
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Okay. Something happened with my, I don't know, internet connection, I guess. But I only need a couple of minutes, so I will just finish my story without the slides, unfortunately. So I'm not sure where you guys lost me, but we had the first key to success is the opportunity. The second one is getting inspired by fellow students and experienced entrepreneurs and coaches. The third reason why I kind of like the Mind Entrepreneurship is because we got coached and not taught. And I think you lost me at the fourth point, and that is getting the right tools. So working with a business model canvas, getting some sales strategy, working with the value proposition, all tools to make the strategy behind your company more tangible. That's very valuable. If you start your own company, you dive into the subject straight away, and you often lose sight of the full picture of your company. So the strategic tools that are handed over by the Mind Entrepreneurship are very helpful in order to stay on track and make the right decisions. Then the fifth reason why I think any university or University of Applied Science should have an entrepreneurship program is because there's basically a momentum. It was already back in 2011. There's nothing that we wanted to know that we couldn't find when it comes to information. So all students, especially today, they go to YouTube if they don't know something. You watch a 3-minute video and you actually know the stuff you didn't know before. And if that's the attitude, if you have that proactive character, then you can go miles and miles within a single day. And no course or no fixed curriculum within education could beat that, in my opinion. I'm here with a lot of educational people, so don't want to undermine you guys, but there's a lot of momentum when it comes to curiosity and information that's at hand for students. And it kind of worked for me because while joining the entrepreneurship program, I immediately felt the freedom and to make the decisions and to get the information that we needed at that specific stage within the company. And it was so flexible that we actually achieved a lot of stuff within a half year. And all this stuff wouldn't have happened if we were just in fixed courses of 9 to 5 and just consume information without doing anything with it. So being flexible and having that information at hand is very, very important. And I had a final slide with a big picture of Steve Jobs on it. And in my opinion, he's the epiphany of student entrepreneurship. I'm not sure if you guys are all familiar with his personal story, but Steve Jobs actually quit college because he felt he didn't learn the right things. But he still attended college by actually cherry picking his courses and joining his friends who were all studying law and economics, and some of them studied product design, some of them studied typography. And by cherry picking his own courses and basically assembling his own curriculum, he became the entrepreneur that he ended up to be. So for me, that's a big and probably the oldest and best example of why student entrepreneurship works. And I'm just a small example if you compare me to Steve Jobs, but I'm happy to share my story with you, and I hope you have some takeaways from it. And that's it. Sorry for not being able to show the last couple of slides. So happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Peter. Great story. And we do have a question from Eric, who actually thinks it's fantastic to hear that you're returning to the minor now as a coach. And he's wondering what made you decide to do so?
Because I, as an entrepreneur, you always walk into your own boundaries and your personal characteristics and what you like and what you don't like. And at some point, I started looking back at the first couple of years as Miss President, and I felt my personal added value was huge during this first couple of years, and it kind of slipped away while the company grew, and we needed to be more like managers, and we started working with KPIs and everything that's more corporate and comes with a bigger company. We're still not big, but so yeah, I kind of miss the entrepreneurial energy I felt back in the days, and I want to have that back. And the company was up and running. My co-founder Paul was doing a great job managing the company, and I actually had this epiphany that it's a great achievement to actually own a company, but not being needed when it comes to the daily management. So I think that's my biggest achievement so far. The company is doing great without me, and there's nothing better, no better feeling than that.
Good to hear, Peter. One question from me, actually. Did you, so you obviously did the minor entrepreneurship. Did you go to any other accelerator program after that, or incubator, or were you basically up and running straight after university?
We were up and running immediately after a couple of weeks already during the minor. So we had no problems in continuing the business after the minor was done. But we tried to always work with coaches. So we still talk to our coach we had back at the minor today. We're still in touch with him during the couple of years that we are running the company now. We bumped into very, very inspirational other entrepreneurs and business owners, and they're helping us as well. So we kind of stuck with the idea behind coaching. It works very well for us. So that's kind of our incubator, to answer your question. But last year we enrolled in this scaling up program, which is working with the scaling up methodology, which is kind of a famous methodology for growing your company, and that paid off immediately. So we actually took us 7 or 8 years to enroll for another program in order to boost our company. And during the time we learned by doing. Yeah.
Very good to hear. All right, Peter. Well, thank you very much for that presentation. And I suggest we have a short break, 5 minutes, and we'll be back 6:05 for the last speaker, Bart, who is going to talk about the introduction of the program that we will run in Albania that you can be part of. So while there's still another question coming in, I see from Valbona. So we'll just pick that one quickly. Valbona thinks, Peter, thank you very much. A very inspiring story. and also obviously inspiring future entrepreneurs by getting back involved. Would you consider having another inspirational talk for student audience? That's an outreach there from Valbona in Albania to do another talk later on.
Happy to do so.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Valbona. Thanks for that question. All right, so we'll have a quick break, 5 minutes, and we'll be back with Bart after that. All right, hello everyone. We're back. We're back live, and we got one more speaker to go, which is our own Bart Sutorius. Bart, I'm sure you're in the call still, and please unmute yourself and share the screen with us so you can go through your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Arjen. I will. I hope everybody is back. If they are still have their speakers on, they might hear me now. First of all, I would like to share this screen. As you can see, you see Eric, you see Arjen, and on the right side, you see me. This is our first visit in Bahrain. Next to me is our host in Bahrain. We were visiting the Economic Development Board here, and we were twice there. We did an entrepreneurship ecosystem training the first time in January. And this is one of the moments we work together. There are quite a few moments, especially with Eric. We go back almost 10 or 12 years already. So I'm honored to be part of the team and to tell something about the teacher program that well, you can subscribe to, and that will start in December already. I'll explain what to expect here. It's all about experiential learning, and it all has to do, of course, with the learning by doing, and it's in line with what you have just seen now as examples from the minor entrepreneurship in Amsterdam and the example from Peter as an alumnus. But first of all, I would like to stress that, of course, you've seen an example of the minor with every semester like 150 to 170 students, which is over 300 a year, and it's very successful, and it has been there for a very long time. And of course, this program, as also Rutger said, really grew slowly on a trial by error. And it will be hard to start a program like that directly. You start off with a small minor entrepreneurship, like also the University of Amsterdam itself has a minor that started off with like 15 students, also about 12 years ago. One other thing I would like to stress is that in the example of the minor of entrepreneurship of the University of Applied Sciences in Amsterdam, and also at the University of Amsterdam itself, students really start a company, or at least try to start that company. And of course, when you teach entrepreneurship, you don't have to start a company to learn about entrepreneurship, but still it's very good to do it on a very practice-based way, meaning that although students will not maybe start a company, you can let them do a thought experiment using the tools, using the modern tools to quickly start that business. So they don't have to write a business plan, of course, but let them go out, talk to stakeholders, go to the market, talk to potential customers, learn from experts, experts in the markets, experts on manufacturing, on business, on export or whatever, depending on the business they are in, of course. But that's also a way of learning by doing, going out and really be confronted with your own assumptions and learn what the world out there really is about. So, entrepreneurship, you already saw this flower. that we kind of developed half a year ago in the minor entrepreneurship. Rutger just showed it. It shows a lot of leaves. The leaves are fields of attention. They are not in a strict order, and also the subjects and the topics that are in the fields are not in a strict order. It very much depends on stage of the company, of course. Sometimes people already have, students already have a small company, or they are about to start with a company. They already maybe have partners or a product idea, or they even have found people who are interested to buy a certain service or product. That's the stage you are in. In any stage, some of them come in with an idea, have to develop that idea within the track, within the course. And also that's to do with the personal knowledge and experience of the students. There is a big diversity in this minor. You also see that in other tracks. And sometimes people don't have any clue about entrepreneurship. They know maybe you sell to a customer, and maybe that's called business to consumer. But if you sell to a business and that is called business to business, they maybe not ever heard of it. So it depends very much on the student and the team and the stage you're in. And the type of business, because if you have a product already, you get it from America, get it to your country and start exploiting it, it's a complete different story than when you really have to develop the total product or service still. So it depends very much where you start and what subjects and topics are important for your business, meaning that this is just a very schematic way of showing the starting to running process. So many things to learn, and entrepreneurs are always still learning. They never can be an expert in all these fields, and they always are learning parallel, because entrepreneurs are, well, usually they are very proactive, they are flexible, they are outgoing, they are building, planning, working, exploring. Is a very active way of being, you could say. So if you go to entrepreneurship education, there are so many things you should learn about, or you should hear about, or you should get some direction in, that it really helps, and not only in Amsterdam, but worldwide, if you do that in a very practice-driven way. So offer knowledge, offer coaching at the moment students need that. That's always difficult, of course. If you have a course in a school or university, you have to kind of plan these courses. You cannot do every week the same course, but still, maybe you have scheduled them in a line, and then students will follow that, but maybe they don't use it right away. And one of the lessons also, I think Peter mentioned it, to implement the knowledge is really really important. Implement at the moment you need it. So learning by doing. This is the kind of official definition, meaning that there is an interaction with the environment. This is the broad definition of learning by doing, not only entrepreneurship. So get out of the building, out of the comfort zone also, meaning going out there, go to talk to potential customers, even though you don't have a real developed concept. So that's personal, out of the comfort zone regarding your personal characteristics, and also with your task, the task you used to do. Personal characteristics, maybe you're not so outgoing, but still you have to sell something. Maybe you're not so structured, but still you have to plan something. That also has to do with task. I don't want to work with financial things, some financial matters, but in this case, to be an entrepreneur, I must understand the financial part also. I also take it up in the team. So reflection, the third one, reflection on action. So you keep on thinking, what did I do? What did I achieve? Did I go out there? Did I socialize in the right way? Was I flexible enough? That's within the team, and that's also, of course, externally. And that has to do with the team reflecting on their actions and the personal development. Personal development is an important item, also an important subject within the course. because there are always things to improve, even though some of the students maybe have all their skills and characteristics. Well, they already have it. They own the right skills, let's say, or they are capable of it, but still there can be a development. But very often, of course, some skills and characteristics can be developed. And we also look at it, and students can, for instance, do a test, or if they don't do a test, they will make a personal development plan for during the course. And of course, you look at skills and characteristics that are related, mostly related to entrepreneurship in that case. So, 3 basic principles: learning by doing, out of the comfort zone, and reflection on action, are very worthwhile to implement in any course or any track, whether it's a short minor or a longer course. I must say a short course or a longer minor, sorry, because the minor usually is like 3 to 5 months, but you also have short courses, also in Amsterdam, of course, and it really can help to, even when it's a thought experiment, to go out of the comfort zone and to, of course, to reflect on your entrepreneurial skills and characteristics. So, to have a look at the Teach the Teacher program that we will offer. There are 2 parts. There's the first part, from business ideas, plural ideas, to a business model. And the part 2 is 2 master classes. The total you could call the masterclass 2.0, entrepreneurship, experiential learning. So, quick look at part 1. Practice what you teach. So if you teach, that is learning by doing, why not practice it as a teacher? And you will learn about different approaches and different tools you will learn, let's say, in modern entrepreneurship, and you really will use these in 6 sessions of 2.5 hours. These subjects will be addressed, like brainstorming, techniques, but also doing it, work in teams. So you will work, let's say, teams 2 to 4 persons, average 3. You will work on a certain business case that you choose yourself or within the team. You look at the customer side, you look at the value you bring it to the customers, you look how to create that in a bigger in a bigger environment. That's the business modeling, the branding, the channeling, the partnering with certain companies or organizations, the resources you need. The pitching is always very important in entrepreneurship because you really need to pitch to the right people, the right thing in a very short pitch. And then, of course, we also will evaluate these methods, tools, and process. While you were doing it in like 5 sessions, we will evaluate that later and see how we can translate that into a shorter track or a longer track. Part 2, 2 masterclasses. The first one is learning by doing in entrepreneurship education. You have experienced the first 6 sessions, you have experienced all kinds of approaches and tools. Then we will have a guest speaker from what would be the didactic approach, go a bit more into depth there and see what that means for you. Best practices from Amsterdam, not only the minor entrepreneurship. The toolbox will be shared with more tools than the tools that will be used in the 6 sessions. And the implementation, of course. How can you implement this approach, these approaches or tools in existing courses or in new courses and tracks? And then we have the masterclass 2, which is about entrepreneurial skills with a guest speaker also. Personal development as an entrepreneur. There is always a discussion, is it nature or is it nurture entrepreneurship? Well, we are convinced that maybe there is some nature there. Still, some nurture often is needed, so you really can develop skills and characteristics. And then again, also look at that personal development side. How can you implement that in different courses and tracks? So, when 6 sessions on Tuesday from December to 1st of December to 26th of January. And then we have the 2 master classes. They will be in February to be announced. Sorry, to be announced. Still the exact date. So, are you curious about the best way to teach entrepreneurship at universities? We think it's the best way. Are you interested in incorporating it in an existing or new curriculum? Do you want to take the current education to a next level? And that would be a current curriculum, maybe a completely new curriculum. These are the questions that were also in the flyer, as you notice. And are you a teacher in entrepreneurship education? Because that we really want people to participate, to be teachers in entrepreneurship now or in the future. So maybe you want to be a teacher in entrepreneurship. So if you are interested and you are willing and able to join us in December, January, February, then please, by the way, it's for free, subscribe to the program before November 23, so there are a few weeks to go. Of course, you can share this with people who are maybe interested to join. Also, do share it within your universities or with other universities. And if you want to subscribe, please send an email to arjen@preneurs.amsterdam. All right, that was a bit fast maybe. If there are any questions, I'll stop sharing and I'll be willing to answer these. Maybe you want to have a screenshot or a picture of this one. Subscribe before 23. Send a mail to arjen@preneurs.amsterdam. Okay, I'll stop sharing here. Arjen, did you notice maybe any questions, or if there are any questions, please put them in the chat.
Not just yet in the chat. Thank you very much, Bart, for that. And we do have
Jonah. Jonah, Isabella.
Riona is having fun. Another question there. Okay, I've muted it here for now.
Good.
All right. Nonetheless, back to the, if there's any questions, and I see Bart is very enthusiastic about the program. That's good to hear, Erik. So please, yeah, you can still drop your questions in the chat. What we'll do next is we'll share a link as well to this session, so you can have a look and maybe even if you want to ask some questions afterwards, you can obviously reach us, and I'll pass on the questions to the speaker involved. It will give you a bit of time, so we have about 3 weeks for you to decide whether you would like to participate in this program. So obviously, it's provided by the EU for Innovation and managed by Bart. So so please have a think about it, and please share with people in your organization if you are interested in participating in this masterclass series, in this Teach the Teacher program.
Yeah, maybe I can add just a few words to sell it to you a bit more. No, but I mean, the experience is that we have done this also with teachers on location, not online, but on location in Amsterdam. And I can tell you that if you're going to work in a team with 2 other people, that can be from it can be a team from different universities, of course, in this stage. And then you pick up a business case and you will work on that business case using these tools, and it's a lot of fun. And that I didn't mention, it can be a lot of fun to do that. And in the meanwhile, of course, you learn by doing, and you learn to how to use these tools, and we will also learn you to well, yeah, to learn about other approaches and methods that we will be using. So it really can be fun.
Thanks, Bart. Obviously, I mean, it's serves to say that you know, the sessions will be online, particularly the ones this year. And although the program will run for also into next year, hopefully, we're really eager, obviously, to come back to Tirana and to Albania to do some live sessions as well, and maybe not for this particular masterclass, but definitely after. We'll be coming back for sessions on location as well. All right, well, I don't see any questions coming in. If you do want to ask a question right now, don't use the chat, but just pop in and unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hi.
Yep, there you go. Hello, Anna.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question and do it in person, because I feel like for the speakers, looking at a black rectangle, you don't get the message across, but it was very well received, at least on my behalf. And I, as a university, but also maybe me personally, will be attending this upcoming masterclass, as I find the topic very, very interesting. The question would be very shortly. I heard like a couple of months ago that Google announced that there no longer was needed a degree to be hired there. And it was, for me as an educator, as somebody who works at the university, it was a bit like, okay, so we need maybe to revise something. And what I heard today is a sort of a validation, what we have known long time now, that maybe the education is not keeping the pace of the developments in the society, in technology, in business, and so on. So it is very tricky, in my understanding, to teach entrepreneurship, not just the question of nature or nurture, but also in terms of content or methods or teaching methodologies. But I understand it's not a question that maybe you can answer with a sentence, but maybe it's the topic of the entire upcoming masterclass, which I hope it is, because if so, it would be really interesting to follow. So that was my comment / question kind of intervention. Thank you.
Thanks, Bart. But you want to respond to that one?
Yeah, I'll respond to that. Thank you very much, Ilona. Well, the first part of the 6 sessions will be very much practice oriented, but of course we will use the business model canvas, the value proposition canvas, and some other tools, and it really has to do with customer development and the lean approach. So these are methods of working around the business concept, as you might know. So it's not knowledge driven, it's much more experience driven. And then in the master classes and well, also on the way during these sessions, but that is not the core business, let's say. Of course, we will share different and other approaches, but it all will have to do and will be related to this learning by doing and out of the comfort zone and the reflection.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yep, off the mute. Yeah, thanks very much for that, Bart, and Ilona, thanks for your question. I see a question from Valbona, and the question is, will there be selection criteria for the lecturers who would like to subscribe to this course? Well, Bart, you want to talk about that? I mean, it is open to all. I think the only thing that we really have said is that you know, you need to be having the ambition to start teaching entrepreneurship, or at least want to develop that in your university. So if you're not directly teaching, you could also be the one designing those programs, for example. So those are the ones we're after, and we're open to people from any university to participate in this program.
Yes, and just to add shortly, we can handle a lot of participants. So of course, maybe the attention I can give to the individual groups or teams will be a bit less, but it's a very interactive program. So we really can handle a lot of participants, and specific questions or whatever, they also can be dealt with after the sessions in the email, etc. So it's really, we really try to stimulate to have a lot of people to join.
Yeah, the application process. So you can obviously express your interest to participate, and we will ask some questions beforehand. It won't be like a selection criteria. Obviously, we'd like to see you being serious about this course. and we asked some questions in to prep for the from the course. So you have 1 week. The reason why there's 1 week in between the start of the course and the end of the application date is because of that. So so please submit your interest as soon as possible, and with that we can follow up and provide you with some instructions. Bruna, I see a question from you. Will there be any course materials for teachers in teaching entrepreneurship that are used in EU universities? Bart?
Not yet. As I said, of course, we will share a lot of links to articles and literature and methods, etc. I'm not aware of a collection of entrepreneurship. I know there are initiatives that have collected entrepreneurship materials from universities, but the way we do it is really the let's say the learning by doing way, but also, of course, giving you the links and the directions. And then some European things will come up for sure.
Thank you, Bart. Thanks very much. All right. Well, we're just on 6:30, so I assume if there's no questions, there might be still coming through. Let me just quickly check the chat. All right. Yeah. So we'll do everything we can to obviously make course materials available to you guys once you've participated. That goes without saying. All right. With that, I think we are about to close this session. Thanks very much for attending. We always realize that this is after work. It's 5 o'clock till 6:30. Really appreciate your time and your attendance today. We're great to see you all again in the next session. So please do reach out to us, and if you have any questions, please ask. You can do that via email or for any of us or WhatsApp or chat. So thank you very much, and by this I'll close the session and wish you a very pleasant evening.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nog 5 minuten blijven?
Ja. Zullen we er opnieuw ingaan?
Ze willen er niet uit.
Maar ik wil studenten die doen net alsof ze erbij zijn.
Ik ga hem wel even dicht en dan komen we er weer in. Ja, zullen we dat doen?
Ja, doe maar.
Ja.